And I was feeling so fine. Just you and me, girl, was a beautiful time. Ah, yeah. Said I felt so happy. My, I was through it, died in pain. All the love I felt hadn't been in vain. Got damaged, I got damaged, I got damaged. I lost myself in but wake up beside you, hold me in your arms. Nothing and nobody's gonna do me any harm. Ah, yeah. Said I felt so happy. My. And the way I feel inside made me feel so glad to be alive. God damn it, I got damaged, I got damaged. I lost myself in you. I never felt so happy. I never felt so happy. I never felt so happy. I'll never feel that way again. No, no. People can be precious, but they ain't for keeping. I get to possess it, but so's it for stealing. You're my addiction, like it's strung out crazy. Hit me like a fever when you left me bleeding. Stone, stone, stone. Love with you was stone. we know wala ni no kwala we sing it tumba we matoi muto bola nika atiti bam tondiwa yembalena ningam nembam pinyabo nato piwenge laki senbam wakan webe sowe nasibi muto weni weno ndutu nyemba mulema ebuke bonba we know wala kene ukwala we sing it tumba we matoi muto bola nika atiti ibam tondiwa Dikwale wenge ditope wenge dikwale musima buena dikusino dia inamuna timbana nasibi muto weni weno munyenge tomwaye nasimenepa wala nino kwala we sing it tumba we matoi atitibam tondiwang tondiwang.
Your long blonde hair and your eyes are blue. The only thing I ever got from you was sorrow. Sorrow. You're acting funny, trying to spend my money. You're out there playing your high-class games of sorrow. Sorrow. You never do what you know you ought to. Something tells me you're the devil's daughter. Sorrow. Sorrow.
cry and Jag, you started. How do I end it? Well, if you're feeling gloomy, come around and do me. Meet me where they play the blues. People have said they've seen you dance in hideaway places. People have said you find romance in others' embraces. Well, honey, if you're dreaming,
Okay, folks, can we start taking seats, please? Just got a few announcements that I need to run by you. I want to say good morning to people that are on Zoom. Say hello to our Zoom people. Have you noticed we put them all on mute? Yeah, none of them can speak. A couple of things that are coming up that I just wanted to mention in the future, for the future. Deepness Radio, as people know, is now hitting 10,000 listeners a month, which is really big. The problem Deepness Radio has is it has not received any funding as of yet. So we're running it from airwaves and money that we're scraping off of other budgets that we shouldn't be doing that with. So what we decided is we're going to have an art auction. And that's going to be in November and December. And we're looking for artists. And remember yesterday when we practiced, I'm an artist. Yes. We're all artists. So we're looking to get around 100 pieces of art, which we will auction off. And that money hopefully will make sure that the radio can meet all its commitments. Because the commitments is known wages. To get a license to play songs, you have to buy it from what's called PRS. And once you get into the 100,000 plus category, that license goes up. And we've also started the podcast now, so we've also got to get a license for podcast. It's like a government money-making machine. You know, they just you got a license for everything basically now. And it's ridiculous, but we have to follow the law. So that's that. So if you are an inspiring artist or an artist and you'd like to put something into the auction, please get in contact with Maureen, because she's not here. So that is.
Does it have to be a painting or could it just be?
It could be, this will be going in. So that will be going in. I showed it to Colin this morning. He said, that's scary.
It's meant to be.
Also, if anybody wants to become a member of Deepness, membership's open to anybody and everybody. Again, just write to us or go on to the radio and you'll find a link to become a member. If you want any requests or somebody's birthday and things like that coming up, just let us know and we'll make sure we play something that day. I'm trying to figure this out because I'm waiting on a couple of people that I think. Right. some of the things that's going to be happening today, we're going to be doing a bit like we did yesterday, except the songs will obviously be different songs. They won't be the same song. And we're going to play a song called The Fighter before we start this session. And then after the coffee break, we're going to be playing a new composition by you, Paul, isn't it? Yeah. And it's called We Are. Yeah, and I know that. I even remembered that. How's that? Yeah, it's called We Are the Storm. I listened to it last night. Brilliant. So I'm hoping that you'll enjoy that. And we've got a couple of films as well. And our introduction today, the welcome today, our main welcome, will be done by Ronald and Michael, that's it. And I thought you looked familiar.
It wasn't me yesterday, I'm new.
And Michael, and that's going to be on for next year's conference. We loosely decided that a good starting point for thinking about next year was around unconscious bias and what that means in dementia and what it means also in terms of all the, because every part of society is represented in dementia. You know, we have lesbian and gay groups, we have ethnic minority groups, BM, and I hate that word, by the way. So, but we have a wide disparity. We even have Dundonians. So we need to make a special category for them. Yeah. Anybody that's been out in Dundee will know what I mean.
I'm survived.
So we're going to start with a song, and this is the third of the 4 songs on the EP. Remember the one I told you to go and pre-order online? Yeah, that one. And it's called The Fighter. And I know this song well because I wrote the lyrics. And this is how I felt when I was first diagnosed. You know, this was all the confusion and craziness that went on in my head. And it also became the very first poem in a play that we performed in, it's now become a song, which I'm really happy about. And all 4 songs that you're going to hear are going to feature in Dementia the Musical. I thought, why bother writing more songs when we've got songs? And we also had a lovely one that was done in Edinburgh, Willie's on it, Trees of the Forest, and we're going to put that into the musical. And I was just thinking, and this is off my head because I know there's a lot more music out there, but isn't it time that we dedicated a couple of shows on the radio just for stuff that's been written and performed by people with dementia? So we you know, our own Top of the Pops, if you will, you know, because I know that Paul, I love the Climb Every Mountain, and there's other songs that you've done, but there's newer stuff and there's other people doing stuff. I think it'd be good just to have a half day or something on the radio where we just play nothing about us without us, so it's all dementia songs. And I'm sure Ronald will put something together for that, won't you, Ronald? Maybe. That's a yes then. Okay. Can you tee up the fight?
I am the demented poet. Hear my call. I am the demented poet. Hear my call. I am the demented poet. I will not fall. Disgracefully dementing, frustration fermenting. Vocally venting, desperate denial. Developing daily malevolent malady. Furious fidgeting, terrifying twitching. Dementia diagnosis. Painful prognosis. Broken, begotten. Futures forgotten. Dementia diagnosis. Dementia diagnosis. Dementia diagnosis. Dementia diagnosis. Haunting hallucinations, perverse persecution. Rightly refusing maniacal musings. Cognitive chaos, eliminating illusion. Wordless wanderings and constant confusion. Corrupted connections. Invasive insurrections. Deadly directives. Interventions ineffective. Dementia diagnosis. Dementia diagnosis. Dementia diagnosis. Dementia diagnosis. People pretending. Niceness never ending. Totally transcending. Cognitive comprehension. I am the demented poet. Hear my call. I am the demented poet. Hear my call. I am the demented poet. I will not fall. I am the demented poet. Hear my call. I am the demented poet. I will not fall. People pretending. Nicest never ending. Totally transcending. Cognitive comprehension. Dementia diagnosis. Painful prognosis. Broken, forgotten. Futures forgotten. Dementia diagnosis. Painful prognosis. Broken, begotten. Futures forgotten.
That song was made by Alex Harvey.
It's in that style, yeah, yeah. Right, aye. He's one of, well, you know, he's one of, we've talked on radio about Alex, haven't we? Amazing, amazing musician. So that's the third of the four songs. Before we go into the first film and then there, I'm going to ask you to join me for 1 minute. 32,000 plus people with dementia died during COVID. A lot of them in care homes where they expected to be protected. 32,000 souls lost in our community. So I was wondering if we could spend 1 minute in reflection, and if you want to, feel free to stand. If you'd rather stay seated, it doesn't matter. So let's just have 1 minute of reflection. Thank you. We didn't start yesterday with the silence, because today's the day when we're going to talk about the National Care Service. And had we had a proper National Care Service, we wouldn't be standing for 32,000 people, because they would have been protected. And therefore, I thought it was right to keep the memorial part really until today, when we're actually talking about the solution to the problem. So we're going to start with a film. You ready for that now? And the film's called The Consultant. And I want you to just answer one question in your head while you're watching it. How many times has this happened to you if you have dementia? Okay.
Ron, this is a reminder that you have your appointment with your consultant.
Alexa, what's the definition of numpty?
Numpty. Adult or an idiot?
Ah, well, you can forget my consultant cardiologist. It's my consultant numpty I've got an appointment with. Hey, the bugger's taking his time. Where's Francesca?
Francesca is in Dundee. Her rehearsal is now finished and she is available.
Hey Dad, how's it going?
I tremble in anticipation before the altar of my consultant cardiologist.
Dad, behave yourself.
Afternoon. Sorry, we're running a bit behind today. It's not at all convenient for me.
Well, that's no problem at all. Do you want to get yourself a cup of tea?
No, quite fine, thank you.
Well, this is my daughter Francesca. She's just going to help me remember so I can write it down after.
Hello.
So, Francesca, I've been going over Ronald's notes and we're quite happy with his bloods just now, and everything seems to be settling down after his stent procedure. How is he feeling?
I don't know. Dad, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling okay.
My father is feeling okay.
When I realised what my daughter was up to, I could not have loved her more than I did that minute. Thank you, Francesca.
That's grand. And is Ronald definitely taking all of his medications?
Are you definitely taking all your medications?
Yes, I'm definitely taking all of my medications.
Yes, Dad is definitely taking all his medications.
Okay, I think we'll keep things as they are for now, and we'll see him in a month and review again. Thanks.
That was a good one, Frankie. I thought we had him tell. But, you see?
Take it easy.
No, it's as if I am not there. Was I there, Francesca? Damn it, am I even here?
Calm down, Ronald.
Ronald! the only person who ever called me Ronald was Sister Mary Francis at St. Columba's Primary School. She used to give me the belt every morning.
Maybe the consultant was her son.
Right enough. You looked a bit like her now you mention it.
Look, you're right, Dad. That was shocking. You just need to calm down. Here, maybe you could get Alexa to make you a cup of tea?
Who?
Dad?
Just kidding. Gotcha. Right, I'll let you get back to rehearsal. I'll phone you later when your mother gets back.
Love you.
Away with you. I love you. Alexa, tell me the truth. Is my memory getting worse? Am I getting worse? I feel like I'm losing this battle. Strange. Fighting a war when you can't remember who the enemy is. Every day, your wounds worsen.
Ron, you need to stop being so concrete about what is happening to you. Think about it. 4 years ago, people thought you would be in a care home, but you're still at home. You've created a house that talks, controlled by me. You're laughing, crying, getting angry, remembering who Karen and the kids are. You're still in the moment.
Thanks for that, Alexa. Do I live to fight another day?
More like you're around for the rest of the day, Ron.
So can I have eggs for breakfast?
Of course you can, Ron.
This is a film of a common experience. And you might have found some of it funny. Hopefully, you found some of it funny. But we hope you never lose sight of the fact that many people diagnosed with dementia live through this interaction every day. If we are going to change how society views dementia, then we need to start listening to people diagnosed with dementia.
On the other side of the world, they say, forever lighting up the night. There's a rabbit in the moon, they say, breaking into the...
That was one of our lockdown films. And it was also when doctors were doing all their consultations by that NHS video link that never worked. The one where you'd go, hello, and the doctor would start speaking, but you couldn't hear anything, and then you would hear him, but his mouth was out of sync. And if you're like me and you partly rely on lip reading, it was a nightmare, you know, trying to put the two of them together in one space. I think the lockdown changed us. And I want to welcome now two people who I met during lockdown. I met because of the pandemic, Michael and Ronald, and they're going to talk about some of the ideas for next year's conference. This is just ideas at the moment. We want you to build on them, so we have conference. Over to you guys.
Sorry, I spoke getting the wrong brief. Oh, explain what she's whispering about.
I thought they were introducing the session. Loads of this though.
I think it's called all early onset dementia, isn't it, Calvin? Right. So Rono and I sadly discovered we're on this morning first thing, you know. So I went to Kaz and said, what the devil are we going to talk about? Said, well, you're going to talk about the rest of the session, you know. How wrong you were, isn't it?
It's what we were talking about the directors meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I now realize that it's something that we're going to talk about. But first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody coming back, you know, and after all that yesterday and all the drinks and the food, we all decided to come back, you know, looking for something better, you know. I think it's really difficult to follow the song, the 1 minute silence, and the film, you know. So we're just going to be brief, isn't it? You shut me up when I'm too much.
I'm literally terrified, very terrified. I don't know why I got up.
Because I dragged you up.
No, I feel I got up under wonderful, beautiful duress. But I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Well, that makes two of us then. Right, I think we're going to talk about next year's conference, so assuming that we're allowed to do it, and of course we're bloody well do it, won't we, next year? Yes. I think we briefly talk about the themes for next year, because when this conference was planned months ago, we literally had a long list of things, you know, and Rod, they said, you're only allowed 3, you know, and that was it. So the things I tried to remember to jot down was the Dundonian dementia thing, obviously, you know, but I put it further down the list because that's a problem we'll never solve anyway, you know. We talk about LGBT, don't we? Dementia and LGBT. Yeah. And the other thing was Black minority ethnic groups and all that kind of thing as well, you know. Can the committee member remember anything else, Jerry?
Yeah, no, it's really about you were going to really explore. Ronald, you spoke so eloquently at our board meeting about feeling excluded from a lot of things, and you know, was that down to race? Was it down to so many different things? And I think you talked about that.
I've got my feeling as well. You know,
So
although I'm really Scottish, you know, I'm not Chinese, but I've got my.
I agree with that.
Sorry, Karen. I know. So it's my fault. I dragged her in.
It's the first time in my life I've been able to say that. Shut up, woman. You get away with it.
I bet you'll never do it again.
No. I will suffer for that.
Well, you mentioned race, and race and cultural diversity. Race, cultural diversity. Sorry, I stumble over my words sometimes when I'm nervous again. Race, cultural diversity. These conversations are always on the top of my agenda. But we also talked about unconscious bias. That word came up, and I thought about unconscious bias because I'm always going on about feeling the victim of unconscious bias. But equally, I tried to be a bit balanced about it, and I realized that I very much can be at the forefront of unconscious bias towards other people. And unconscious bias, as I am starting to understand it, I'm learning every day, is when people make assumptions about people which are not correct. And I'm always feeling defined by my culture and also the diagnosis of not just the dementia, of onset of Alzheimer's, but also I sustained a brain injury prior to the diagnosis of the dementia. It was me against the world at first, and then, sorry, I'm taking long to get to the point. Then I realized, wait a minute, you're prone to jump to conclusions about people and situations. Because when I go back to meeting Dementia Diaries, I remember when I first met this gentleman over there, that amazing gentleman, I don't know if he recalls, but cool, but I went to a conference in Battersea. Is it Battersea or Brighton? Brighton. I had to bunk in, because I didn't have a ticket.
Took him in my guitar pit.
Literally, I was going through a nightmare in Luton. I had to get out of it. Someone said there's a conference about dementia in South End. I said, oh, I've never been to a conference. So I said, I called up. They said, oh, sorry, it's all booked up. There's no more entries. But I said, well, I'm coming anyhow, to myself. And I went up there and I just hanged around for a while and I got in, I slipped in. And I liked it. And I went somewhere else. Now, from meeting you, I met you and you talked about the Dementia Diaries, and which I'd known about, and I thought to myself, well, that's not for me. I came up to him and I said, that's all right, but there's nobody of my heritage or culture there. So it's not for me. And you said it is, I should give it a try. If I don't give it a try, then there won't be any more people of your heritage getting involved. So I gave it a try. I wrote Dementia Diaries, then they liked it. They invited me to a place in Scotland. And I said, I'm not going to Scotland because I'm not going to go to this place with all these people who I don't know. They're most probably all bourgeoisie. All bourgeoisie. And plus, I looked it up. The place we was going to, I looked it up on the internet. And it was like this kind of mansion, hotels type of situation. And I thought, I'm not going there. So I started to form opinions about these people and what they were all about before I even met them. But I was forced to go there. I was forced to go there, I don't know. I went there and they turned out to be the most amazing, beautiful people or some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. And that experience was such a life-changing experience for me. Amazing. It was just phenomenal because up until then, I was led to understand and believe I was not meant to have an opinion. After I got the diagnosis, everything about my life was an ordeal. And I just didn't fit in with any group of people, any situation. I was just basically isolated from humanity, from the world. And I'm not exaggerating. I actually got literally excluded by the local council and all the art services in Luton because I was seen to be a problem because there was too much of me in terms of enthusiasm and excitement and passion for life. I wasn't meant to do anything but to be reliant on services. So when I met these guys and I saw the way they were living, I thought, but all of these guys have got a diagnosis and they were full of life, full of beauty. There was a lady called Dorcia, who was a joker, phenomenal. And it was just amazing. I sat next to that gentleman there, guy with the big belly.
The funny guy.
Tommy. And he might not remember, but while I sat next to me, all around the big room, in the big room, having a big conference type, a big meeting, a guy called Paul who's doing the video from the BBC, they were doing a big event situation, and Tommy put his hand around my shoulder and he said, "You're one of us now." And I thought, wow, it was a different experience. But so my unconscious bias made me think like, wow, you always jump to conclusions about people and about life. And one of the worst conclusions that I jumped to about unconscious bias, now which defines how we can all be guilty of unconscious bias, is I said hello to Ron. And he basically hardly moved his mouth, I think. He was like, hello, whatever. And I thought, he doesn't like me, because I still,
he still doesn't like you.
No. Well, even if he doesn't like me, I love him. I love him, and I feel that feeling is just mutual. And he sat around in this big group, and he sat in the middle of the room, and he spoke about things. And there's a lady called Philly, she said, everyone can have a little rant or a little moan about life, whatever. But I was still convinced he didn't like me. Yeah, I still was recovering from just feeling insecure about everything. And even though everybody was wonderful on the day, I didn't realize how wonderful they were until I went away and I evaluated the day. So I was still there thinking, like, moving cautiously. I wasn't talking to anybody. I sat down by myself. I took a picture with that lady there called Agnes, which I still got. I'm gonna put it in my book. And it was just, so unconscious bias applies to us all. But there's a different level of unconscious bias that I think we experience from social care providers, from the system. That's a different level of bias that we experience, because it can be detrimental to our life prospects, to our health, and that's the one that really needs to be dealt with. The bias, the perceptions that we are crucified by, I think that's the right word, that we are put in handcuffs and shackled by when we become so reliant on social care services, which seems to direct us into a little box where we're just expected to stay indefinitely because they have opinions about us which are wrong. And just like I can make wrong opinions about people, I think we need to challenge their opinions, and that's the task. I don't know, go, I missed it.
No, you haven't. Well, 10 minutes ago, he said, I've got nothing to say. 10 minutes later, we have to stop you, didn't we?
Sorry, so I do talk too much. The last
you said you've got nothing to say.
The last thing I'd like to say is, then I saw Rod again somewhere else, and I went up to him and I said, excuse me, can I have a show on the radio? And he said, yes. Right? He said it, and I thought, wow. And I took my camera out and I said, I've got to take a picture of him. And from that, yes, yeah, I no longer had wrong assumptions about this gentleman. And he has contributed to my health, to my well-being, my joy, because I'm now doing something whereby I think I'm starting to have a voice. So guilty me for making assumptions about people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't have much to add, but I had a conversation with Paula and Dave. You know, I was saying to Paula that when I first came to Scotland 53 years ago, I used to think the Scots ran about, you know, in kilts and all under the big jacket, you know, because it came in the winters, I didn't really know what to do. And I heard the story about the haggis, or busy looking for the haggis in the shop with just asymmetric legs and all that. Little was I wrong, you know. And then I heard all sorts of stories that when the Scots fought the English, they used to lift the skill when they're losing the battle, you know. Anyway, so there you go. And just to add to the unbiased thing, when I was first diagnosed with dementia 2.5 years ago, the first consultant I spoke to spent literally hours talking to me about the biology of it. So eventually I just said, hang on a minute, doctor, I'm actually a qualified biologist specializing in human body. So I know about the biology, but, you know, didn't tell me anything about what's wrong with my brain, because I could tell you every section of the brain, that's what's wrong, you know. Tell me about the aftercare, the kind of things that I could, oh, I can't do that because I know nothing about it. So that sums up the reason why we're here, you know. So basically, we're really just looking at you guys for ideas, how you see yourselves in your table, what you think is the best way to put together a care package to compare what the government's put out, you know. And you can see there's lots of colourful thoughts, you know. Reminds me when I was a kindergarten or nursery, you know, what you can do. So all this is on you guys, you know. Anything to add, Mr. Ronald?
No, I'm just grateful to be here. I keep picking on Tommy and Paul because we're business partners. We make music together. We got plans for the future, and people who have, they don't realize how much ambition for the future people with dementia have. We live into the future, not back into the past. We also live into the future.
Just clarify something. Well, when we first met, I put my arm around you. I was trying to pick your pocket. You called me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And one more thing, what I've learned also to do more than ever is to love people. I love it.
I remember that, Tommy, when you were trying to dip his pocket. Because I hugged him right after you and the wallet had gone. I remember it well, in the Chelsea Hotel. So now we move to conference. That was introduction and welcome. Now we've got conference. And I want you to spot in the next film the rogue element. Now, my wife's already did a rogue element today by speaking. Normally, I couldn't say that, but I can today. And this following film is the introduction to the next part, and it was put together by the alumni, which for people that don't know the alumni are really a bunch of old gits. No, they're not. No, it's Agnes, Nancy, James McKillop, who's one of my heroes, and Martin Robertson. Yeah, and together they are the Scottish alumni. So we're going to watch this film, and then you'll get your instructions what to do in your groups. And for Zoom people, I just want to let you know, Julie Hayden will be joining you in the Zoom room today and taking you through your discussion. Okay. So I just want to say that. So can we fire up the film? Okay.
Hiya and good morning. I'm sorry not to be with you in person, as it would have been great to see everyone that I've met through Zoom. Sad as I am, I've read all 137 pages of the National Care Strategy consultation and started, on behalf of the Dementia alumni, to answer the questions within the 47-page questionnaire. This is taking time because although dementia is only mentioned roughly 6 times, the document is totally about the future of social care within Scotland. What difference the funding mentioned last week will mean remains to be seen, as Scotland will receive a percentage of it due to the Barnett formula. Anyway, at first glance, the document has followed the dictionary mentioning human rights, etc., but as always, the devil is in the detail. Some points have jumped out at me already. There is an intention to scrap the postcode lottery, where, for example, one council can prioritise children, whilst another can prioritise the elderly. Hopefully, this means that best practice can be taken from one council and used throughout Scotland. For example, Fife have a dedicated named nurse who follows the person with dementia through the journey. Through Age Scotland, myself and others have already discussed the document with the Minister, and I believe that this conference will have delegates doing the same. He is very approachable. He would be, coming from the North East, so he understands the importance of localism away from the Central Belt. I put to the Minister the importance of having someone with dementia on the new locality boards, ensuring oversight, as there should be nothing about us without us, and spending on dementia will be the greatest part of social care spending. He wants evidence-based solutions and was interested in Fife's post-diagnostic support, for instance. He also took on board the importance of language. Having been a bureaucrat myself, I fully understand the difference between must, i.e., oh dear, we have to do this, and should. Right, that can go, if not in the bin, at least put to one side. This is equally true regarding funding. Ring fencing is vital, otherwise creative accounting comes in. Been there, done that. The alumni in due course will give their considered response, using examples where possible, as that is a prerequisite for proposals to be considered. Bye for now, and wish you all the best of luck in collating a considered report in a time available. Bye.
Start again. Hi everybody, it's nice to see well-kent faces and make new friends. The video you have just watched has shown how seriously we, the alumni, see this consultation. But due to our retention and memory issues, and we've all got different types of dementia, so different challenges, we have to thank Paula Brown, who assists us, because when we were talking about how difficult we were finding it, and it seemed quite daunting, we looked for a solution, and Paula came up with doing 3 or 4 videos, breaking it down so on YouTube, so that we, the group, could look at it at our leisure, and we will be able to answer knowledgeably after discussion what we want to say as a group to this new Scottish National Care Service that is being we're asked to consult on. So please don't be put off with the amount of pages. Don't think this is too much for us because of our dementia, because there are solutions. Now, Nancy and I are going to be at this conference, so we're in the audience. Feel free to ask us how we came up with our solutions, and let's do this because it's important to us, it's important to Scotland that we answer honestly, because we owe it to our government so that they can make knowledgeable decisions on our behalf. And then, because we've participated, we can criticise all we like if they don't listen to us. That's how I feel, and speak to us after. if you want to. Bye.
Overwhelmed by the amount of material, and the reading you must have done, Paula, amazes me. Anyway, here we are now. Yes, and I'm interested in the joint boards idea. You know, how are they going to work? And what was the other thing about the Charter of Rights? Obviously, we need a Charter of Rights, I would say, and the joint boards, absolutely. The future of social care is so important to us as people with dementia.
So do you think that social care needs to be improved?
Oh, no doubt about it. Absolutely, it needs to be. Of course, it needs to be improved. What else can I say, Paula? You would have to be an idiot not to say yes to that, you know? Excuse me. Am I being stupid?
No, I love it. You tell it how it is, Nancy.
Well, there's no other way to do it.
So this is really what this document's about. It's about asking everybody how to do that, how to make it better. So right. We're making a start.
Yes.
At around about 2013, the Scottish Government gave a guarantee. Now that wasn't spoken, it was written, that people newly diagnosed with dementia in Scotland would get a year's post-diagnosis support. Now that didn't happen. The report into how it was going on took years to come out, and at that point, only 2 out of 5 people were getting it. Now, there could have been a lot of reasons for that. One, that they couldn't recruit staff. You can't open up a job and think everybody wants to do it. And again, there'd be training involved, so that people would have to go into the job maybe a month or 2 before to find out what they need to know about localities and things that can happen. So, and again, could be travelling. Some parts of Scotland, you maybe can only see 2 people one day because of the travelling, which will be exacerbated in the islands, where travel is much harder. So, going by the fact, I think the number of people getting post-diagnosis support has risen, but it's not 100%. So while I'm all in favour of these things, and I really appreciate the government looking at it sincerely, I have my doubts it's going to work for a few years. They haven't got the post-diagnostic support sorted out. So how can you sort this out? So obviously I'll give everything my full support so that things are better for everybody.
The Age Scotland has dates where you can join them if you're not a member of a group to have your say. If you're coming from a carer's perspective, the carers have dates that they're sending out to other carers. If you're a young carer or a member of the prison service, there is consultations happening all over Scotland. So look out in your local authority to see which dates. A lot of these consultations are happening via Zoom.
For such an important change in policy in Scotland, what worries me is the fact that it was 139 pages long. Some say 137, but I get the number 139 from it. Now, professionals, I imagine, will be busy. How are they going to find time in their working day to read it? So how do you expect non-professionals to read through that and grasp what it's all about? It was really too much. I mean, I read it, but it was a quick read because it would have taken too long to stop and ponder over every single bit. So, but what's the alternative? I think an easy read for not just people with dementia, but for anybody that's in a situation where they might need health and social care.
We can't look at it as one big document. We need to break it down, no matter who you are, to be able to adapt and do it in an easy way that it's not going to put a strain on your brain, you know. So, and I think the alumni, in my opinion, have been very professional and brilliant, especially over just a few days. For Paula to do what she done.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
To be able to read that and do all these things. And for James to be able to read and skim read it, because I couldn't read it. And I even struggled with the video, and I was pausing and starting it, making another cup of tea, pausing it, looking at it, and that. But that is the alumni showing how important this is to us. And that is what I want to get across. It is an important piece of work. And we, the alumni, are giving it its importance and putting our effort in so that the government is enabled to understand where we're all coming from, so that it's easier ways to do it. And every group will find their own way, and every individual needs to find their own way to find the way to get their voice heard. It's just coming from your personal experience. So it's not a test, you know, and the government will put this through whatever thing that they put it through, and pull out the data and the statistics and say people think it should be local, or they think it should be national, or they think it should be this, because, and then they'll analyze it, you know.
I think it would be nice to acknowledge Ron's and Karen's work in bringing the first Scottish meeting of people with dementia together, a conference run by and for people with dementia. And I don't know if he'll be saying that in his introduction, but as we are on near the beginning, I think it would be nice to acknowledge the hard work behind the scenes that's allowed this to happen. A Scottish first. As I said, this is a Scottish first, and I hope that it's the first of many. And I'd like everybody that's made the sacrifice to come along today, to have a good time, to learn things, and to go home refreshed.
Yes, yes. The alumni are really overwhelmed by the amount of information in this document, the National Care Service for Scotland. And I think we actually are struggling to participate in it. And we would like you all to try and join us in this. So please come along and join us in this conversation about what would you like the National Care Strategy to do? And what do you need for carers? What are the questions we all need to be asking? I think that's what we need to kind of sit down and talk about.
Thanks very much, Nancy and Agnes, for that, and Paula for roguing. You spoke, you broke the contract.
I think maybe that's where it comes from. Sometimes we need a little prompt, you know, and that was what Paul was
Yep.
for, you know.
That is an opinion. Okay, not an opinion I hold. I believe that we should do it ourselves. And you know that, Agnes, I've always said that.
And I think that's we can
but this session is for someone else. It's not for that. It's not for our discussions on that. We'll have that next year on unconscious bias. We'll have me and you going through it fisticuffs, right? My money's on Agnes. Okay. Can I just give you the instructions for what we're about to do, because it's going to be different from yesterday. For people in the room, you're not going to have a discussion, and there is no hundreds of questions that we need to answer. Governments confuse people by giving them information. That's the role of government. They give you so much information that you can't make head nor tail of it, and so you just go along with what they say at the end anyway. So let's take all the information out of it, and let's answer one question. What should the National Care Service for people with dementia look like? No other question. Because if you like, that's what's important to us. And I'm not talking about for carers, they can go and do their own thing and decide what it should look like for them. This is for people with dementia. Right? By, for, that's it. And the one thing that we should never compromise on is our autonomy. Right? Because the minute we give an inch, the system will take the mile. So let's not compromise on our autonomy. Let's answer the simple question. What will it look like? And what you get to do is on your tables, you find you've got loads of, there's 3 tables with loads of stuff on it. You can tell that somebody's been to Hobbycraft. Okay? And then on this table, there's other bits and pieces like pens and things like that. We want you to create the National Care Service in Dementia, right? As a collage, or you've got a board to put it on. And the great thing is you get to create it. And then when we come back to feedback after coffee and things, you get to speak to your creation. And that's what's going to be important, because that will be your National Care Service for Dementia. And we're going to film that response. I told David that now. That's what I love about no remembering.
I know what I'm doing.
Because when we meet with the minister on 28th, we'll show the film. We don't need to do it all by speaking. We'll show them the film and say, this is what we think. Rather than, because he is nice. In fact, he's so nice, we'll believe him. He's a believable character.
Tell that to James McKellen.
But I, like many people, often find that politicians, for various reasons, can't deliver. And he's not the person that actually has to deliver it, it's the workforce.
Yeah.
So we've got to think of the whole caboodle. What do we want? How do we want it delivered? Where do we want it delivered? You know, there's all sorts of questions. And feel free, everybody, because the people that are here, you know, the people that are allies, let's start calling you what you are, you're our allies. People that are our allies, do get involved in this exercise. Watch, listen, learn, and if you can see how what we're trying to create at each table can be misused by the system, point it out. Right? Because that's where the learning for us can come. By no falling into the traps, because the system's really good at creating traps. So enjoy this, because it's like Blue Peter. You know, and but the good thing is, well, the good thing is it's Blue Peter, but we've not got one we made earlier. So we're only going to have the ones you made.
Can I just do just a point out there's 3 tables with materials on. Can we just equally sort of spread people with dementia and professionals watching around those 3 tables, if that's okay? You've got scissors and everything on here. In the middle, there is glue, string, sticky tape. There wasn't enough to put individuals on each table, but there's stuff there that you can get. I just got what I could. I hope that out of what I've got makes it colourful and works.
Okay, go to it.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming along to Zoom meeting. As Ron said, Julie will be along here. Julie Hayden in a minute to chair this discussion with you all on Zoom. But for time being,
Oh, you're back. Sorry, I was panicking about
Zoom. And
Julie's
on her way now.
Julie's still coming on
Okay.
apparently. No?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm just doing it for time until June. Sorry. When Julie's on, I'll move away.
Yeah,
that's cool. Sorry, I had to tell Karen what's going on. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming along. So anyone who wants to switch their screens on, their cameras on, so we can see each other, makes it easier. Anyone want to? We've seen quite a lot of you. Hello, everyone. Anyone want to give any thoughts or reactions to what you've just seen or watched this morning? No at all. I like the film The Arguments. I've seen that a few times. Always makes me cry. I'm not quite sure why. It's just very moving for me anyway. But, so the National Care Service. Anyone got thoughts on National Care Service for dementia? How's that going to look? I'm writing in the discussion paper which we're presenting to the minister a couple of weeks time. So you want to kick off with some thoughts? Go for it. Or our dinner. Here comes Julie as well. Just sit down here. Sorry, we'll wait for Julie. Here's Julie arriving. So
hi.
Sorry. Hi. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Morning.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
I was interested in what James said about post-diagnostic support. I think I work for the Life Changes Trust, and we've funded lots of different types of dementia-friendly communities over the last number of years, and we find that support that's provided within communities seems to work really well for people with dementia and unpaid carers, and I'm wondering if maybe going forward. Sorry, we can still hear all the background noise.
So that's the right side.
Quite hard to concentrate.
The volume's to the left.
Thank you.
I'll just change the name. You can speak.
Yeah, my name is not Jim.
I know that we go, but Julie.
I know I look very much like him, but
H-A-A-D-E-N, H-A-Y-D-E-N, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. There we go. Okay, cool. I'll leave you guys to it. Thank you.
Hi there, folks I know that I don't. Hiya.
Hi, Julie. I was just saying about post-diagnostic support. Sorry, it's very hard to hear because of all the background noise. Oh, that's better. Yeah, so
I'm going to close the door here so that
okay.
Playtime in there. Can you hear now?
Yeah, that's a lot better, a lot quieter. Yeah, so I was just saying that we fund a lot of different types of dementia-friendly communities, and I was wondering if providing post-diagnostic support in a community setting.
Sorry, it's really difficult to hear. Sorry, could you just have that again, love?
Sorry, I can't really hear myself over the noise.
They're going into playtime at the moment, so anytime now it's going to be quiet.
I think Adam managed to do something yesterday with the sound, so that
that should be so much better now.
Okay, well, I'll start again. Okay, so I work for the Life Changes Trust, and we've funded lots of different dementia-friendly communities across Scotland over the last number of years. communities of interest and geographical communities. And we find that particularly during the COVID pandemic, these organisations were able to provide support to people with dementia and unpaid carers really quickly, much more quickly and efficiently than statutory services. So I'm just wondering if there's a role in post-diagnostic support going forwards for it to be more based within communities and within community organisations, and maybe what the Scottish Government needs to think about is providing more resources and capacity building for those organisations. That was it.
Anybody have any ideas on that? To kind of brainstorm on that.
That would seem very reasonable, because what we've heard so far today is the importance of the person-centered approach for each person with dementia. So if they're familiar with their space locally,
Oh, I see. And glass cleaners and vacuums.
Can recruit.
Oh, you're in the right at the end, right at the end. Yeah.
Yes, I
Is that your
would
stuff?
Absolutely, person-centered approach, vital.
If I can, I think there one question. What should it look like? And for somebody that's not living with dementia, I think any input into this at all, I don't mean to sound that individual person.
I'll just, sorry, Adam, I know you're having problems. I'll close the door again because someone's left it wide open again. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now? That seems a bit quieter. Or is,
yes.
Yeah. What on Anne's point about it being person-centeredness, the one answer I have is what it should look like. It should look like what works for any given individual that's living with dementia. That's the bottom line. I know that services don't work like that necessarily, or it's challenging to make them work like that, but I'm sure there can be an awful lot more flexible in approaches. I think that's the bottom line. That's the only comment I can really give on that, because I'm not somebody living with dementia. But that's my feeling.
Yes, Rose. Rosie.
Yeah. It's a similar point, but it kind of made me think of that whole debate that often comes up between equality and equity, and this whole idea of the fact that sometimes you need a different approach in order for people to get the same kind of benefit and same output. And I think that idea that Ken was saying there about flexibility is crucial, because actually you can have, if you have a kind of skeleton structure that works generally for the majority of people, then having leeway for people to make, personalized decisions, or people who know the person better to help direct that support. But I think some of the time we're trapped within our own structures. And I think if we can show that people can make, positive decisions that are healthy and flexible and can work within that structure, in a similar way to what we try and do with kind of co-production research, you take the traditional model and you say you can still get a strong scientific output using a slightly different approach. I think a similar model is kind of needed here, where yes, a structure is needed and certain parameters are needed, but flexibility is so important and doesn't take away from what people are trying to achieve.
Can I ask, following that, Rosie, the models that work well, you work on best practice. The whole point of this conference is because things don't work so well, but can you actually say pick out a few things that are basically working well at the moment, generally speaking, so that that's a good positive place to start with in any new group?
That's a really good and really difficult question. I think I'd actually be kind of nervous to decide some good things without consulting more with it out it coming from people with lived experience of dementia, because I kind of see my role as helping facilitate people having their voice heard. So I'm quite uncomfortable deciding on what's working for people on their behalf. But I guess I hope that these approaches where we're having more forums for space for people to say what's working, I think that's a really positive step. And I think the fact that there has been a much stronger commitment towards public involvement, patient involvement, or however we want to term it, I think from my perspective, that's improving, and that there are more opportunities for change. But I say that very hesitantly with awareness that I'm not living with dementia. I hope just to kind of be an ally, as we've discussed. So I'm cautiously saying those things because I'm aware that, you know, it probably shouldn't be from my voice.
Thank you, that's fine. Maybe we will ask some of the participants.
And I think definitely something that COVID has taught professionals is that now we're looking across different ways of connecting with and consulting with people and allowing that range of consultation to take place. So some people will be available to gather and be giving their input in person. Other people, maybe because of their health condition or because of perhaps they live in quite a remote area, they'll be able to have their say and be consulted equally, because we now have those remote options involved with the professionals, so that we still get our voices heard. Yes, Andrina.
Just wanted to respond to Anne's question about things that work well. We've had really good feedback from people living with dementia and from unpaid carers about when they're given some money to fund their own resources that they write themselves. And I think sometimes people they welcome something that's actually been written by someone with dementia because they're, you know, having that experience too. And some of those resources have then been used to train new nurses. So that's a really good example of, you know, people with dementia having a real influence on maybe changing how professionals are trained in the future and, you know, increasing their awareness of dementia.
In essence, this is helping to train or at least enable the professionals to be more aware. It enables them to do what is required. So I really commend all the authentic honesty of all the participants here. It really should prove beneficial in the end.
And hopefully kind of widening the scope of thinking around what the abilities of people living with dementia are. That having been a past professional involved in health and social care myself, that there are the assumptions that sometimes unconscious bias, that you tend to assume that people living with dementia are capable of much less than they are. And I think hopefully what conference is doing is starting off that greater awareness of the fact that we are still very capable people. We do retain many skills, and as Andrina just suggested, that by using our abilities to then pay back into creating written and recorded materials to give to medical and social care professionals, that allows for their better quality training and then feeds back to us as a better quality service.
Yes, an awful lot of potential. Brilliant. The other slight aspect, I'm sure you'll agree with if you were involved with health and social care before, is that the intentions might be well and the models might be good, but the actual putting into practice doesn't happen very quickly. We've just had the example of the government's promise that post-diagnosis, the first year there would be support. Well, that wasn't very evident, and that is in the past, and we can move on from that. But the sense of urgency that's come from the conference, I think, should be taken on board by the health professionals. Something needs to be implemented this year rather than next year, however small, however meaningful, but it really would affirm the importance of this type of group of conference.
And certainly what tends to be coming back all the time from those of us living with a diagnosis is, over so many years now, we've heard loads of words, and I'm sorry, but now we need action.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're absolutely right, Anne. Yes, Rosie.
I was just going to add in that it was brought up yesterday as well. One of our challenges is that there's an element of preaching to the converted in terms of the people that come forward to this sort of thing. Like I already know from the people in this group, there's a lot of involvement in things like co-production and that different approach. So I think a challenge for all of us is how do we essentially get this information to people who maybe some of the time don't even necessarily know that they need to know it. Some of the issue with tackling things like, say, stigma is that people don't necessarily realize that they hold these biases, so don't have the motivation to try and change them. So if people, particularly well-intentioned, might think there's no reason to change or to take on that different information. So I think we have a bit of a battle there that hopefully we can all work on together in terms of how we break down those walls. There's also that kind of final bit that I was thinking is a challenge that we face as researchers, but I've also seen it in practice, where how we translate what's in policy, what's in research, what's in kind of written about what's going on and what's happening on the ground level, how is this affecting people? And I think although it's improving, that we have to show that kind of impact, show the difference it's making in practice, I think we've still got quite a long way to go for that actionable change. And I think that's exactly as Anna and Andrina have been saying, that's what people are wanting. They're wanting it not just to be words on paper anymore, it needs to be actionable change. But I think one of the ways of doing that is finding out how to kind of get people that don't realize they should be interested, because really everybody should be, that it's important for everyone to know about. We know that dementia doesn't discriminate, so it's really about kind of showing everyone that there's a reason that it's worth them learning about it, it's worth them looking at how to improve people's quality of life. So I think for me that's one of the biggest battles, is how we get it to the next level, because I'm really aware that we have these clearly a shared ethos within this group and within the conference and so forth. So it's a challenge, it's not an answer, I apologize, but it's maybe something, I suppose, from my side that I can see as being a hurdle that we need to face.
And I think that's always a problem with with any sort of conference type setting, that certainly people feel that it's okay coming along to conference, but you're absolutely right there, Rosie. A lot of the time it's about preaching to the converted, because those who attend, those who listen, are those who are already on the right mindset anyway. So what we've been talking about just before we came in to the second day of conference today was talking about how we can take what is being discussed within the conference here and spreading it out further, making it more widely and publicly viewed, and different ways in which we can do that. It's as we're speaking, as the conference is happening, it's already being spread out across social media widely, but how can we push it further? You know, can we pull together, we're talking about putting together, editing a YouTube video all about the conference to put out there, and different ideas like that, which we're still batting around.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that really does sound great. You know, it's being thought about, and obviously anything that we can do to help that, because it doesn't take away from the interest having the people that you've got here. It's not to diminish that because we're converted. It's still a massively valuable resource, and hopefully, you know, we can use some of this momentum of what's been created and achieved in 2 days. Just, you know, the amount that's been put out there in the last 48 hours is huge, and so I hope we can all help to amplify that impact.
I think also what Ron has started here in Dundee is already being picked up, not just across the UK, but in so many other countries. I mean, I've seen people that I know popping up on sort of connecting in over the internet from America, from Canada, from Australia, from Singapore. And so it is, our voices are being heard around the world now. And those people who all had the same dreams, the same vision as Ron, but it's Ron who's actually made it happen, and he's made it into an actual conference. Well, you know, we're in Dementia, World Alzheimer's Month. So now the kind of ball is back in their court to bounce that idea around and make that happen in their own countries, and use this as a kind of blueprint, a sounding board, whatever you want to call it, in order to replicate the same things in their own countries. And already we've started to hear back from other parts of the UK saying, this sounds fantastic. How can we do something like that in our area?
Oh, that's encouraging.
So fingers crossed, one in England as well next year.
That's another thing about the conference. It's a really good model of a conference to have a single outcome focus that is going to be actioned with. I mean, it's just marvelous, really.
Rose, did you want to come in?
Yeah, it was just to say kind of, yeah, like Anne's saying as well, this kind of what you're talking about, Julie, in the way that it's spreading. It just makes me think about what we were talking about yesterday and peer-to-peer support, and yeah, kind of how important that is. And yeah, when I was thinking about the care service, I was thinking about that discussion from yesterday, and maybe that's something that really needs to be kind of shared with the minister about the importance of that. And this is a perfect example of how, you know, peers are spreading that message across the world, which is, yeah, it's really exciting.
And I think maybe what professionals could pick up on is that I think for most, if not all of us, when we first got the diagnosis, that everything was so negative, and we were given no follow-on support, no signposting, nothing, just left with this very negative message. Whereas when you talk about people going into depression, having suicidal thoughts, and spending months in that kind of despond that they found themselves in, if you, on being diagnosed, got yourself introduced to, connected up with someone who was who'd been in the same position as you, so immediately connecting in with peer support, because that really has been a lifeline for so many of us. It's impossible to kind of outweigh, over emphasize just how valuable that can be. And you know, you could save all those months of feeling helpless and feeling depressed and like there's no future for you. If only you could chip in early and say to someone, look, I've been where you are, and your diagnosis does not represent the end of your life. Life changes, but it is going to continue to be positive. You still got so much to get out of life and to give into life. It doesn't stop with diagnosis.
Julie, can I ask, are people given the diagnosis mostly from the GPs or sometimes from maybe where the brain scan's taken place?
It's very scattered, very individual. That's why I mean Scotland or down in England, because there's no clear dementia pathway.
Right.
Your diagnosis can come from anywhere. It can come from your GP. It can come from, I got mine from, personally, I'd seen a consultant psychiatrist who told me, absolutely, even after a brain scan, where he saw the cerebral atrophy, he would say, and I questioned him, could this be the start of dementia? He was going, oh no, it couldn't possibly be that. You've had no young onset in your family, therefore, you know, you could only possibly have young onset if it was in your family already. But 6 months later, a neurologist was telling me, you've got dementia. So it can be from so many different areas, which is why I think we need to get this clearly defined pathway of how people access the help when they're worrying about their symptoms, and then once those results come in and they get their diagnosis, where do you go from there? Yeah. Where does a clear and joined up approach to where people are directed and how they are best supported? And that's going to be, as was mentioned right at the top of this session, it really has to be person-centered, because each and every one of us is different, not only around age, but around background, around just how our individual dementias affect us. I mean, there are anywhere between, it's thought there are possibly anywhere between 160 and 200 different neurological disorders that can constitute a dementia. And when you consider that the youngest person to ever be diagnosed in the UK was 2 years old, So it really can, you are looking at something which can affect you right the way through life. From a child, the couple of conditions I've heard of there are Batten's disease and Niemann-Pick type C, but there's bound to be others. So right from childhood, right through to being in older years, in older life. So broadening those horizons from the professional's point of view, why it needs to be person-centered. We have one of the ambassadors for the society, a chap called Daniel, and he was diagnosed at the age of 30. Well, if you can imagine if a 30-year-old goes and looks for support and care, then, and in looking around for that, he's finding that any support services happen to all be designed around the needs of his grandparents. How is that appropriate to him? It's not going to be relevant to his life and the support package that he needs and that his family needs.
Thank you for sharing all that, Julie. That's very helpful. It does present many challenges for
the
support services, because, you know, so many people have got to become much more aware of this, embedded in training from everything from, first of all, social workers and care workers and everybody around who might be in all these various areas, Julie, that you say the person is given the shattering news.
And going back to what you said, Dan, about kind of about the urgency of things needing to be done. Yeah. I mean, if you just go back in medical history, for example, the first person ever given a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, who was examined by Dr. Alzheimer, at the time he examined her, she was living in an institution and she was 50 years old. So she must already have been having clear display of her dementia symptoms throughout her 40s. So that very first person had young onset, but it is still so difficult to get that recognition and the appropriate services matched up if you're in that younger age bracket, because it's assumed that the older people's services, which encompassing both medical and social, are going to be appropriate for people who have dementia, when actually most older people, however old they live to, are never going to develop dementia, and an awful lot of people who have dementia are not elderly.
So having heard that, it leads me to ask you probably a rather wide question. Referring to the dementia pathway, where does that start? Are you even suggesting that possibly if someone's lived for a few years without the diagnosis, but it could have been picked up earlier? Should the professional pathway, should the application of a dementia pathway, at what time should that start?
Well, I think it's essential, going back to the person-centered aspect, that what the professionals need to be looking at is essentially not targeting a disease, but looking at a person. So you look at a person and you look at what they're presenting with and how you can best support that person who is presenting with that bundle of needs. I mean, I was diagnosed at 54, but I'd been having life-changing symptoms going on in my life for 5 years beforehand. So those symptoms can be building up and becoming quite major in their effects in your life for so long before you actually get to a point of diagnosis. So I think the initial thing is we need to get more education in there and more awareness that obviously in the younger age group, there are so many more likely things it can be other than dementia. But instead of just getting to a certain point in the investigation process and then kind of writing that person off as, they're a bit of a hypochondriac, which happens in my particular case, keep on plugging away with the investigations and that and until we actually get to the answers to why those things are happening in that person's life. Sorry, I don't know if I've strayed off and I'm going a bit wrong here.
Thank you.
Yes, Adriana.
I was going to say, I think it's even more difficult for women sometimes because when you get to a certain age, then you've got menopause symptoms thrown into the mix, and there's a lot of confusion between, you know, maybe depression caused by menopause or, you know, something that's going on with dementia. So I think, you know, it could be contributed to a lot of different factors, so the diagnosis might take even longer, which is a huge issue. I was going to tell us a little story about a young lady with early onset dementia who, you know, her parents were like, she's so young, she was only in her 30s, and she didn't want to go into a care home because obviously that wasn't appropriate for her. And she joined Aberdeen Football Club Dementia Project. And instead of just going along to the project and doing walking football, they said to her, well, why don't you just be one of the volunteers and you come along and you help out? And that worked well for her because, you know, she didn't want to, you know, go into a care home. She didn't want to just go along to a project. She, like you say, she had so much to give back to her community, and she became involved as a volunteer and she absolutely loved it. So I just wanted to share that because I think you're right. That's a person-centered approach. That's saying what's going to work best for her at the moment.
And also something to be aware of is that that people within the caring professions, I was involved in one of the caring professions when I was starting with my symptoms, and that, you know, it, like I said, it affects anybody in any walk of life. And it's going to be, there are going to be health and social care professionals who themselves become affected and get their diagnosis. But there's not one of us who can ever assume that it's not going to happen to them. None of us here at conference ever thought we were ever going to get dementia. So it really can happen in any time. So it's developing that positive approach as to what someone's capabilities are that does have dementia. And it starts essentially with education as to what dementia actually is. It's not just Alzheimer's, it's not just vascular, it's not just about memory issues. That it can relate, you know, that the brain governs just everything. So absolutely every aspect about life, about the way that we experience and interpret the world around us. I mean, Agnes Houston wrote a brilliant little book called Making Sense, Talking Sense, in which she perfectly described how she took a chapter covering each of the senses, and she explained about the normal working of that particular sense, the changes that took place in normal aging process, and specifically how that sense was affected in dementia. And I think, was that actually produced in association with Life Changes Trust?
Yes, it was. We provided the funding for that booklet.
Yeah, yeah. And that's been wonderful, and that's something which it doesn't even have to be something which health authorities, for example, have to go out and buy a book. It can be downloaded. So all they do is need to download it and provide their staff with a copy of that, for it just to widen the mind as to how dementia can affect people and affect their everyday lives. For example, you know, one of my main issues is that how I always assumed dementia to be was that you would get the memory issues, that you would sort of get a bit confused, and only in very late stages would the physical stuff come on. But one of the main symptoms for me is I have very little balance, so I have to walk around with a frame. And that's actually one of the senses that that Agnes approached. But another thing that people aren't aware of is something called hyperacusis. So the way that the effects of sound and certain types of sound can have on someone. Hi, Mac. So the way that hearing a certain type of sound, a certain tone, it's not just an annoyance, it doesn't just cause earache, it really is like a skewer through the brain. And so how that needs to be best approached. And I know that, for example, Wendy Mitchell, she eventually found suitable help, but she had to really trawl through an awful lot of audiologists before she found an audiologist who was aware of the difficulties of hyperacusis and what was the best way to approach it and find the right aid that would help damp it down for her.
I think it's interesting how Agnes had issues with her sight, and that was how she found out about her dementia as well, because it's not something, as you say, that people would traditionally associate with dementia. And yeah, I think the fact that, you know, that booklet can be downloaded will hopefully start to educate a lot more professionals and, as you say, make them aware of those particular issues. So yeah, it's really, really important that people with dementia keep writing these resources and keep sharing that information.
Yes. Hi, Mac.
Sorry about that. I've been with Steve Milton and I couldn't get off from there. I have been listening. To yourself. It's been an interesting discussion. That was a bit more interesting. So I stayed on that. But yeah, you see, what I have been living like, I know Julie, by the way, for quite some time, so we know each other pretty well, but just for the benefit of the others, I have been living with this condition since 2010. And my diagnosis was accidental. I didn't have any symptoms. I didn't have any problems. And I didn't know much about the condition anyway. I didn't know what dementia was. I hadn't witnessed it at first hand. Nobody in the family had it, or any acquaintances that I knew. But anyway, I had major heart surgery, and apparently after the heart surgery, they do a brain scan. And of course, I was out I didn't know anything about it. They did the brain scan and my FTD showed up. So then I was told about it at home. Somebody visited, because in them days, the doctors and consultants used to visit you at home. You know, especially after the major surgery. So they came and saw me at home. And you can imagine if somebody's recovering from heart surgery and all of a sudden somebody comes home and says, there's something wrong up here, you know, you can imagine it was like having heart surgery all over again. So all these methods of diagnosing and telling people and all that need to be looked at. They also keep saying that if you met one person with dementia, you met one person with dementia. But that does not happen in reality. I have met over 3,000 people in the last 3 or 4 years living with dementia. And every time they go and see somebody, some consultant or whatever at the memory clinic, you know, they're asked the same questions. And those questions don't fit me at all, because I don't have memory issue for a start. And the questions are related to memory. And why do they have an appointment at the memory clinic? I can't understand that anyway. Why do they call it memory clinic? You know, it's supposed to be a test for people with dementia, and memory isn't the only issue. It is one of the problems, admittedly, but not the only problem. So that turns people off. I have refused to go on their interviews, because I feel that degrading. You know, I've been a professional all my life. I was accountant in my sane life, and this horrible disease has taken that away. But, you know, I've still got an identity. I've still got a pride. I've still got a position in the community. And I don't want that to be taken away. They tried to take my driving license away. I appealed for it and got it back. But the fact remains, every single one of us are unique. We're not rare, we're unique. And that uniqueness has to be looked at. The GPs have to know the person. The consultant has to know the person, his background, his upbringing, his education, his other health conditions. On this other meeting earlier on, just now, there was somebody who's at their annual review. And she had a local doctor ringing her, who didn't know how old she was, who didn't know what type of dementia she had. And he was asking all these questions, and he was trying to, sitting on the other end of the phone line, trying to work out what treatment or what medication or what help he can give. To me, it's a no-go. I don't know if this is the right platform to say that, but it's just come out of there, and I thought I'd mention it because I think it needs to be known. Thank you very much for listening.
That's lovely, Matt. Thanks for that input. That's really important. We're going to have to pull the session to a close now, because shortly we'll be going back into main conference. But thank you so much for all your contribution. And thank you so much. Lovely to meet you all, and speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Julie. Bye.
Just gone to mute, so I'm not deafening everybody.
Right, shall we begin? We're going to start with another piece of music. This piece is called We Are the Storm. And it was written by Paul up there. And Paul also sings it, you mixed it, didn't you, Paul? You were in the studio doing that. And I listened to it last night for the first time. I think it's brilliant. And I thought it was too good a piece not to play. Ready?
The last rays of summer dance across my ceiling. I heard the news today, it didn't help my feelings. How do I tell my children? How do I tell my friends? So many reaching out for love, the story never ends. Never ends. The knock on the door, the fear in my eyes, the flames of my life extinguished. Well, who do I turn to? Which path do I take? It's not only me, no. Millions in our world face loneliness and confusion. Come on, don't sit in your chair, gazing out of the window. Let's all shout. Let's all share our voices. Don't give in. We have support. We have so much to give back. And so much more to achieve in our lives. Together we can raise hope. Sing once more. Laugh out loud. Watch the sunrise over the mountain. Swim in a warm sea. But most of all, fight the storm. Because we are the storms. We are the storms. We are the storms. We are the storms.
And not a care plan in sight. No pathway, just music for the sake of music, because you are artists. Yeah. Remember our expression of conference? I'm an artist. 1, 2, 3. I'm an artist. That's it. That's what we are. Artists. What talent in this room. Can you imagine when finally we reach 100 people with dementia in the room? And we've got the 6,000 years of experience in the room. Can you imagine a question that cannot be answered by that 6,000 years? There isn't one. There is 6,000 years is longer than we have recorded history. That's what's in a room of 100 people with dementia. 6,000 years of knowledge, wisdom. We don't become stupid when we get dementia. In fact, many of us become wiser. 6,000 years of experience. One room, one group. And Paul, you guys up from Liverpool, thank you for that, because we will be the storm. We will be the storm that challenges the status quo. And I don't know what you put into your plan, but my plan was very simple. Day one of a new dementia strategy, get rid of block contracts. Remove them completely. They are disgusting. Right? Get rid of block contracts so that the big boys kind of have their 7-year plans. That means they've got to adapt to our needs on a daily basis rather than put a plan and get funding for 7 years. You know? I am not a block. I am a person. So let's move, for me, moving towards our own payments where we buy our own services. May sound a bit strange in Scotland for some people, but think about it. Wouldn't those organisations respond differently if we were in control of the money that they have received to provide? It wouldn't be, oh, we're having a meeting, you can't get in. It'd be, come in, tell us what you want to have the meeting about. That's what happens when we change the game. You know? 6,000 years of experience, we can change again. 6,000 years of experience, we would have more knowledge in the room than the whole of the Scottish Parliament. Because they've not got 6,000 years of experience yet. There might be 129 of them, but they ain't 6,000 years yet. I think I worked out it was about 4,940, so they're behind us. Right, we've got no chance when it comes to wisdom.
Mesopotamia sort of time.
The feedback is going to be filmed. I'm saying that because that should give David the 1 minute notice he asked me for. If it's okay, if it's okay with people, if you don't want filmed, if you could tell David, because I think these kind of visual things, it's also good to be able to show what was done. For people on Zoom, if you don't actually see it, don't worry. I'll post it on our website under a news conference. So whatever film's done now will be posted so that you guys can see it at your leisure. Okay? And do feel free to make any comments in the chat box at the moment. And Jim is going to pick them up and feed them into the room. Okay? So that'd be great.
Thank you.
Right. So we went 1, 2, 3, and we're always doing 1, 2, 3. So let's do 3, 2, 1. We're going to start with this group. Okay, so Jerry, do you want your table on there? Come forward.
Oh, you go, Jerry.
You want to bring it here, Jerry?
Okay.
Yeah, right, take it. Yeah. Jerry, we want it there.
Oh. Sorry. Perfect. This is our picture board of what we want the care system to provide for us. Our first picture here is of a big black cloudy monster, and that's actually social care monster as it stands right now. Okay. Probably the first most important thing that we discussed as we would like to do is to be able to live in our own homes forevermore, really, or at least for as long as possible. We want to be have a family life, just like anybody else. A nice house, nice garden, all that kind of stuff. Everybody, and we do think everybody, we're lucky in Fife, everybody should have a roof, right? Who's employed by the local council. One person, and that one person makes a huge difference. And it's not a lot of money. If that one person was employed throughout Scotland in every council, what a difference that would make. Likewise, every council should have a Maggie. Maggie as our specialist nurse. And she's with us pre-diagnosis, through diagnosis, and she'll now be with us until we die, basically. And we have her, and we're very lucky to have her. She gets to know us and she gets to know our family as well. And I think every local council in Scotland should have a Maggie. She's employed by the NHS, not by the local councils themselves, as such again, so that's not expensive either. One person again, dealing throughout the whole of Fife, one person throughout the whole of Fife. Not a lot of money, not a lot of sense. We'd like easier access to self-directed support, because at the moment it's a postcode lottery. Even in the same counties, like Fife, in others, or in central Fife, you don't qualify. In Dunfermline, which is West Fife, you might qualify, depending on who's there. Like, you know, so it has to be the same story all across the board to give us access to eating, possibly help cleaning, doing just basic things that everybody takes for granted, like using computers, helping emails, like a PA sort of thing, like, yeah. Simple as that, like. We would like there to be easy access to peer support. That's my peer. Yeah, that is probably one of the most highly important things anywhere. And again, in Fife, we're lucky because we have a fantastic peer support group, and that costs the council nothing, absolutely nothing. We're self-funded, we do it all ourselves, but I think something like that should be in every council in Scotland, not necessarily provided by the local council, but they should be saying it's out there. This is where you need to go if you're looking for support or advice and things like that. Like, we'd also like easier access to subsidised travel. Simple, really. We all, many of us have lost the freedom to jump in a car and go wherever we want because we're not allowed to drive anymore. Like. So we rely on public transport. So easy access to that public transport in the first place, and probably a better public transport system itself would be ideal, to be honest. Going on from that, like, which goes with the car as well. We would also like some kind of buddy system. Somebody will sit round, see how you are, take it to the shops. It's like a befriending sort of system, like, again, sort of thing. Again, that could be voluntary, so it doesn't cost the council anything. Again, it doesn't cost the government nothing. But it's a volunteer system, again, so I think there's things that should be put in place as well. Simple, easy things. That is a pile of poo, by the way. That's that represents a diagnosis. Yeah, and this up here, we're going to have a bonfire on Guy Fawkes night. This is your PVC armchair with a good person with dementia sitting there drooling away. Listen to We'll Meet Again, don't know where, don't know when. Okay, and there's a big red cross there because that's what we don't want ever, ever, ever. We would like this rather than this. Okay, thank you.
So now we come to, see, I just thought of something, you're always second. So we're going to change it again, and we're going to make you second. So if you guys can come forward and present your thing, that'd be great.
I'm coming out.
Do you know what amazed me, guys and ladies? We've put almost word for word what you have done, which is going.
We didn't copy you before you
no,
said
that. But we went as good.
No, nothing like it. Nothing.
So
like
anyway,
it.
so like if you
Right.
lift it up,
What I do first.
so that's, now this is our.
Wait a minute.
That's perfect.
Some
Is that okay, Ron?
logistics. Some logistics. Right. Yeah. So this is a group effort, obviously, on our right to national social care. And we worked it out, and we are going to talk about articles and right-based. So what we want is equality of service throughout, right? And we want it, if we turn it round, to turn this little person before diagnosis. You can see the tear, you can see that they're in a dark, awful place, and which has happened to most of us. And then to get to this, where the person with a smiley face is at the heart of everything that happens here. All of our social care should be person-centered, and the person with the diagnosis, it's their voice that's heard throughout. We would like, no, we would not like, are you listening to that? Our right is under Article 25, equality of services. So no postcode lottery at all, please. Under the right to social care in Article 25, we have a right to a timely diagnosis. So this isn't good wishes.
It is our right. Under Article 25, we have a right from diagnosis to death to have a named nurse to look after us and listen to us, assist us, and give us their knowledge and expertise. Under Article 26, we have a right to peer support. And under this peer support, which is massive and has helped so many of us, and was said, it's normally doesn't cost anybody anything except for their time and their knowledge, expert opinion. So we get a right to rehabilitation and a right to habilitation. And this is our right under Article 26. And that will give us education and knowledge and understanding of what we are going through. Now, under Article 28, we have a right to personal funding for respite. This is not respite where they'll put someone in a care home or so that the carer can get peace and quiet, or whatever the right terminology is. This is personal funding with a right to have respite, whatever works for your personal situation. Under the UDHR, and I don't use abbreviations, and but we didn't know how to spell it all. What does it mean?
Universal Declaration on Human Rights.
The Universal Declaration on Human Rights is the right to die our way. So when the government listen to this, I think they're all going to be educated on the rights in the articles if they didn't know it. And we also under this have the right to education and knowledge about understanding end-of-life care. I personally have the right to live my life the way I want it and to die the way I want it. And I have a right to that. So please listen to that, because I ain't going to die your way, I'm going to die my way. And also at the end of life, our families have a right to counselling after death because they've supported us. I know we can't do this on our own. Some of us have to do it because I live alone, but our families have rights too. But that's up to them that we put it in. So that's what we want to do. Now I can hear them, right, before we do that, I wanted to say, I can hear them saying, and how the hell are we supposed to pay this? So I've just given you a few ideas, right? You're going to fund this by all the money that you're going to save from the acute care when people with dementia who are being treated responsibly and respectfully aren't falling and aren't using acute services. So the nurses' time that you're going to save, pay for the specialist dementia nurses and put them in every locality. And the money that you're going to save from carers' stress and depression, put that into funding this. The money saved from GP services and visits that we, the people with dementia, do, and the health service in general, that money saved can go into the pot to fund this. And the local authority, no, you're not getting off the hook. You put your hand in the pocket and put some of this, and please ring fence all this money so it goes to the appropriate place. And my question to the government who are listening to this, how can you afford not to bloody do this? We're just saving you a fortune. You're making people's lives better. And if you talk to us together, of course we can do it. It's a no-brainer, right? So, right.
You want to hold on to this?
My pile might. No, I'm doing his job. Right?
Right, I just want to add just my tuppence words, it's not like me to be keeping quiet, So I was looking at it from the biological point of view, so pre-diagnosis when we are normal. This is our DNA structure, you know, sort of a double helix into our brain, blah, 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 and so on. So post-diagnosis, something's gone wrong with our DNA, affects our brain and all that. We can't do anything to change it biologically, but with all these surfaces, all the things that Jerry's team mentioned, hopefully we'll get to the point that we have a wee bit of sunshine at the end, that we can't change the DNA, but we have changed our behavior and our support through all the support we get through that. That's all I can say.
So now that we've sorted the Scottish funding crisis and what we should actually begin, I can't wait to hear what the third group have done. One down.
Right up.
Yeah.
All the best seats.
Well, let's talk
Do you want
about
to
it.
you hold it up that way? Yeah.
Do you see that?
Thank you.
You doing your one?
Is it not there? Up there.
Quiet, please.
What's it mean?
It just means I'm a very simple person, and it just means think local. I thought that was the most important thing I had to say about this. Think local and think about your own situation, what it's going to be like, and what people would do.
Wonderful.
Sorry about that.
That's
Very minimal. Minimal.
Who did this one? Who did the flower ones?
Wait, that was not someone who was helping us.
I think it's Fiona.
Yeah, Fiona's 2 points where you were saying that everybody should have a nurse. Right? And that was very important. And the other thing was that everybody should have the money so that they could do what they want to live their life how they want. And that was the 2 points. And that was the
just that's great. Well, that was our thoughts. But thank you.
Never know what it's all about.
On that.
Now this is the good ship Dementia, and it's made up of every race, colour and creed, because we want a care system that works for everyone, regardless of colour, race, creed, gender, religion, sexual orientation, political persuasion or social status, rich or poor, so that we can all sail under the same sail through the stormy waters that is dementia. There is no class aboard the ship Dementia. Everyone must be given a life jacket. Everyone must be treated as equal. There must be no postcode lotteries. Let's sail through it together as one.
I did a little one as well, by the way.
We did. We pinched this off like this. Step back to front. You stop.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
This is like that's it. This is the same person that can be turned into a happy person. Everyone just turning things around. You can turn a sad person into a happy person, or if you whip Paul, from a happy person into a sad person. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, you put this back.
Drop them.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah. Back this.
I live in a rural community, and my right that I want defended more than anything else is my right to a cultural life. I live 30 miles from our arts centre, which is my lifeline. 30 miles, and they stopped our buses at night. We don't have a night service anymore. So I can't go into my art things unless Karen comes with me. That is reducing my right to be an independent, autonomous person. And I think those rights, if they're not enshrined in the National Care Service, then the National Care Service is meaningless. If we are not defended to do what we want to do, to live how we want to live, to die where we want to die, then nothing matters. And you guys today have just said that beautifully. I can't wait to the 28th. And you know, as many of you guys that get in touch with me by Monday that want to be there, I'll make sure you're on. We've got to give them the emails so they'll send people the link. So if Stand want a group to come together, if you give us an email address, no problem. I think it's really important, as many of us as possible. You know, we've got an hour, and it will be an hour where it's people with dementia. That's it. I mean, there'll be other people supporting us. I recognise that, but we will be doing the speaking. So that's brilliant. Now we come at the end. Isn't it great? We're finished. Wow. And I want to break the end into two. First, I want to thank some people, particularly, that have really helped us out. I want to thank Adam for making sure. I want to thank Paul for the music and Paul. Last night, that was amazing. I want to thank Jim the magician. That was magic. Magic, Jim. I want to thank, but there's also other people that have really pulled all the stops to make this happen. There's people on the board, the Deepness, Jerry, Anne, Howard, Julie, Michael, Ronald, who am I forgetting? There's me. And who else is on the board? The wife. James, who is Karen, and the only person who couldn't make it from our board was Louise. And she couldn't come because she had work commitments. And Irene. So that was great. I suppose that. But I want to thank my PA, who's been helping us with the admin as well. I could not survive now without having a PA. And my PA's funding run out. And we're having to be creative in how we fund her now. So, but we're going to fund her.
And she's done a brilliant job.
And she's done. So that was a plea for any millionaires in the room that we could do with a few bob ourselves. Right. Okay, so we're going to have another song, and this is Farewell to the Demented Poet. People that know me, yeah, go on, stand up. I'm not standing up and you get to sit down.
I put this. I just like to say thank you to you. Yes, I'm sorry that it's just been about this dementia. Just going to terms with it, to accept it.
Those they cannot dance with us if they don't know the dance we dance. So true. I'm hoping this is the start of even closer collaboration between all the organisations. I think we've shown over these 2 days that when we get together, we are a storm. No, I think we've blown the minds of some workers that have come, that have joined us. I think we have let them see a different side to us, where we are in charge of a situation rather than being provided a service. We can make this the 15th of September. This could be our Freedom Day. You know, next year we could play, you know, the Independence Day theme tune, you know, all that. Yeah. Or actually, we can ask Paul if he will write a piece for next year. Yeah. And we'll have a really nice piece just to open conference. But we're going to, the song we're going to finish with is Farewell to the Demented Poet. And again, sorry, it's one of mine. But it's a really important one for me. It's the one I wrote when I thought I might die when I was in hospital. So I didn't want them singing "The Lord is my shepherd" at the funeral or "Abide with me." I hate them, right? I hate those songs. So I thought, what do I want? And I decided what I wanted was something I wrote. And I wanted it both in English and in Gaelic to honour my tradition. My family are Irish, so Keenan is quite a common thing in my family, going back generations. And Keenan was a Celtic tradition. It wasn't just Irish, it was Scottish. The Welsh did it, but they're all miserable anyway. So. Sorry. But the keen was going to be my way of saying farewell to people I love. Because, and so I decided from that next year, I'm going to have them awake. Right, probably just before conference. And I'm going to have them awake when I'm alive, because I want to hear what people say about me. So you'll get an invite to that. And we'll hear the song. And then we're going to just have a minute or two where anybody can stand up and say anything. Is that fair enough? Absolutely. Because I think that's important, that people just get their voice and they get the opportunity to say goodbye. Right, do you want to play that?
Cry loud from the wild, from first breath drawn till last breath's rattle. Cry loud from the wild.
And he died. Right, so if any of you turn up at my funeral, don't worry if you hear that, and you'll think I've heard that one before. You know,
Wi-Fi's disconnected, I think.
We almost got through the whole thing without anything like.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So.
The Wi-Fi died.
From the sun's gentle embrace, that brings the spirit's trouble. Cry loud in the dark. It will wait to be reborn. Cry loud to the dark. Cry loud from the wild. Begin the fire of life that will end once more in death. Cry loud for the wild.
Cry wild from the dark, from first breath drawn till last breath rattled. Cry wild in the dark. That's, I call it the Lord is my shepherd in Gaelic. Yeah, because I think that's the sentiment, has the same sentiments that we walk through what we walk through. The spirit will be there. It's there at the beginning, it's there at the end. And that spirit's what's brought us together in the wild. Because our world is wild. It's wild to us with dementia. The last person I want to thank is my wife for putting up with me and for doing a lot of the organising. I couldn't do this anymore. You know, the actual making sure that people got to where they had to be, all that kind of thing. So I want to give Karen a big thank you. And if this is what we can do this year, can you imagine what we can do when we're all working together next year?
Yes. Definitely.
That'll be a cry in the dark. It'll be wild. It'll be wonderful. But, you know, I said it yesterday, we've done it. We have nothing more to prove. We are capable. We can do anything we say we're going to do. And one thing we do, we deliver it. That's the one thing I've noticed about all the dementia groups, alumni stand, ourselves, when we've had a project, and Kerry Connections, when we've had a project, we deliver on that project, normally on time and over budget. But we've delivered. So if anybody wants to say anything, you've now got a few minutes space, so just go up and say what you want. Agnes, go on.
You know, Lord, thanks, everybody. It's been amazing, amazing, beyond you and us wildest dreams. But I just wanted to recognise the dementia activists that I knew in the last century, who were my mentors, my heroes. Without them paving the way, now we couldn't have filled the room, we could have hardly filled a table with them. But they were big and they passed the baton on to us. And then and a lot of us, although not many of us left, were in the alumni, and then we carried it on. And now you, the next generation, are taking it further. It's all about passing the baton on and carrying the knowledge. But I always like in the other countries, to think of those that started it. In Australia, it's the Aborigines and what have you. In the dementia world, I like to recognise, I can't name them, I can only see faces. So I don't count sheep at night, I count faces of the people who were, like what Ron said, brought that smile to my face and helped me. So always forget, there's people who make this happen. So yeah, I think it's been wonderful, and I think well done, yous. You are the dementia future. Thank you.
Well said. We used to have a dream, a vision, every time we used to go to a conference, and it'd actually be like this. People with dementia voices would be here. It never happened. It never happened. This is the future in this room. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, I want to see a fortune teller. This is true. He told me how I was going to die. You know, and it's sad. So one of the children likes a support machine to recharge their mobile phone.
My daughter has just started college. She's hoping to go to the police force next year. I think, I don't know about you, but I've seen some scary YouTubes of how the people, police, and different services treat people with dementia. I think this is one of the things we want to be looking at. To train the police how to deal with dementia. I think for next year, we've got Radio Tay, we've got BBC Scotland, and look, there is an independent one. Let's get them here, let's make our voice be heard. We all have the right to be heard.
I was just wanting to say that if people want to, I'll book a tattoo parlour for next year. And you can join me in getting a dementing disgracefully tattoo done. We can see if we can get a block discount.
Am I allowed to say something?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the final session. We'll give you a bit of leeway.
Good same. Almost the people with a diagnosis enjoying it.
You can have mine.
I'm not. You don't know that. I'm not. That's not meant to be a light comment in any way. It's a genuine comment anyway. Something came up in our discussion which I haven't heard come up again yesterday, and that was about, it was a point Ronald made, and it was about the possibility of social enterprise, creating social enterprises to enable people to do what they want to do people with dementia, and it was in our discussion, but it didn't go anywhere else. And just to get that and remind us that it was said, it was a really powerful point. And so I'll just end with a very short little bit of singing for this man here. Yeah, and I'll just say, somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he was then going to reply. Maybe it couldn't, but I'll be the one who won't say so till I try. He lifted his chin with a slippery grin on his face. If he worried, he hid it. Then he started to sing when he tackled the thing that couldn't be done. And he did it.
And I will definitely take the social enterprises with me to that meeting on the 28th, because I think that's a brilliant idea. And we should be allowed to have social enterprises without it affecting our benefits.
Exactly the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So as somebody who's been involved in education for a long time, and I think all the things that you guys done, I think you've got to go right down to the bottom into our Scottish education. Because if you look at the Scottish curriculum in health, all they talk about is sex education, bullying. There's no mention of things like dementia. And I think it's about time that that should be part of the curriculum. Get these kids bloody well educated when they're 6 or 7. Because kids at that age, they'll have parents and all that kind of thing. So that's something when we speak to the minister, we should mention that. They say, get John Sweeney told that that should go into our Scottish education curriculum.
Jerry and Jim.
Just a quick word, all we say was, I mean, some of the stuff that's come up with us has been really powerful and it's really been quite inspiring. But the best part for me is 3 people actually who got and stood up and said things that they would never have done before, like absolutely never done before.
Yeah.
And Jim.
Yeah.
Never in a million years. That's what's made the difference here, is the fact that we feel empowered and they have the confidence to actually stand up and say what they feel in front of people, and that to me is the most amazing part.
And they took power, Jerry.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody gave them that, did they?
Not at all.
They just took it.
Yeah,
and that's what real empowerment is, just taking it.
Yeah.
Because nobody gives up power. You got to take it away.
I've just got a couple of comments on the Zoom people.
Go on.
So just a couple of people said, just to say thank you for setting up the virtual attendance option. It's been great to observe the conference and learn so much that we can take away and encourage more allies. And the person said, I agree, it's been a brilliant few days. Thanks everyone so much for putting it on. And the opportunity to observe. I just thought I'd share.
One thing I just say, I was disappointed last night at the magic show. I kept expecting the bottle of wine to appear. Because I've seen you do that. Bottles of wine appearing all over. No wine. Oh, really disappointed. And yeah, Ruth, anybody can speak in this session. So you've not been given your voices back.
Great.
I have to say, I think I've done really well to stay quiet. But you've moved me to tears, and they are tears of absolute pride, because I'm so proud of my stand people. I'm so proud of all of you, and it's a delight to be here with you, and I'll do anything I can to support you moving forward, anything at all. So thank you for
Bad news, Ruth, is we're going to take you up on that. Bob.
I'd like to make a suggestion. It's about these wonderful people to have one basin for all mankind. At the very end,
yeah. Yeah, we can do this. We can do Auld Lang Syne. You supply the whiskey. It's a tradition. He's from Liverpool, remember. It's a tradition in Scotland. If you ask for that song to be sung, you've got to provide a bottle of. No, we'll sing a verse of Auld Lang Syne. Can we, Paul? Matthew. Matthew. I couldn't think who Matthew was, but I saw a hand up there as well. So
I'll try and speak, but I'm probably yeah, too close to it. But thank you for letting me be here and letting me keep quiet for a few days as well.
Very difficult for Max.
It is very difficult. That's why I'm in tears. It's been painful. But I just want to say, I didn't see people with dementia here, so I think it's false advertising conference. I saw a reggae DJ and producer. I saw an activist. I saw just so many people, and I think I'm going to stay away from the word inspired, because I think I don't feel, I do feel inspired, but I just feel fired up and angry, and I think I'm just motivated to do more. So just thank you for letting me come along. And just
somebody at your table wants to say, yeah? Then Julie. Okay.
Oh, please, just because I just wanted to say a great, huge thank you to everyone in this room who has made my life more independent and more beautiful than I can ever say. I've had so many people that has inspired me throughout this conference. It's amazing. And the work that everybody has done, I am so proud of every single one. So thank you all very much indeed. I've really enjoyed the process. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to pull together the fact that we're hearing your kind of song. And I've noticed myself that online we've had certainly people tuning in from America, Canada, Australia, Singapore, and many of the people in those countries have the same dream you've one of having this kind of thing happening, a conference by and for people with dementia. It usually the one who's done it. Well done, and thank you for making this a reality, and how the ball is now in their court to start doing this in very difficult countries. But remember, you're the one who did serve. You know, if you get that.
James McKillop pointed out that the first two conferences where only people with dementia spoke. They didn't do all the organising because at that time there was no infrastructure. Were both held in England. Yeah, I would just respond to Julie. And the great thing about that is this is the first in Scotland. And it's the first in this century, no, this century, this decade. Yeah. And it's only 2021, so it's good. Got loads. Who was it? John.
My first time in an audience like this. It's nerve-wracking at the moment. I'm all the way up from Sheffield with family. Going all the people around here and speak to them and talk to them and see what's happening. can think about it at the moment.
That's fine.
Any more for any more?
One
more.
Just before we disappears, I've got a heavy keyboard and some heavy PA systems that's been taken down from the hotel.
Yeah.
Before some able-bodied men disappear.
We'll have Ivan and Jim will be around later on, so don't worry, and I can help. We'll get it out. later.
It's in the cupboard, Jerry.
Yeah, which is
Don't
fine.
worry.
Yeah,
It's all packed up.
Yeah, cheers.
Don't worry. Yeah, sure.
I need one more, sorry.
Jim and then Jill want to speak.
Jim and Joe, okay.
Just a couple more Zoom comments. It's generally coming through the amount of emotion in the room just shows how invested everyone is in supporting each other and creating change. It's been so humbling to hear so many of people's stories and see how motivated everyone is to do things better. And the other comment was excellent couple of days, which hopefully push this issue further along the road to change the narrative on living with dementia.
Wow.
And the one about me and Karen, that's because they don't see us fighting. They don't see the big raging arguments we have about everything. That's why she's called the PA. Personal assistant. She's got to keep it quiet. It's in the contract.
Yeah, I just wanted to see it's been a real privilege to be in such a prestigious company. And I'm here as a researcher and observer. I'm working at Edinburgh University. The minister's looking for evidence-based research. We want to do it, so please contact us, be in touch, get involved in the research that you want to do. But yeah, thank you so much. Really been a fabulous experience.
Go on.
Yeah, I just want to say, I know I've been hiding in a sort of broom cupboard down the corridor, like the children under the stairs or whatever we call them. But I've been able to plug in from beyond and listen to little bits, and I have found it very moving, touching, and inspiring. I think it's wonderful to bring people together and create a space for expression. Maybe one day we will get our needs met once we start organising, agitating, and activating ourselves to make it happen. No one's going to do it for you. We've got to do it for ourselves. I just want to say also on a second note, I'm still going back to the cupboard. Those of you who care to come and say hello for 5 minutes, I'm going to use Jim's laptop. We'll do a little interview and put it out on the radio station. So just combine wave and I'll bring you in for an interview. But I've been honoured to be here and just be present to do it. So thank you.
Could you do that? Stay in the room. No, we started, if there's nobody else, we started with Ali from I'm going to ask Colin if he'd like to come up and say a few words. Because without Life Changes Trust, we could not have done this. They gave us the money and that made it happen. So, Colin.
This is the moment I feared. Because I haven't dressed for the occasion. Very, very simple thing to say is it's the easiest thing in the world to give away other people's money. You guys have done all the work. I've never been to anything before where you're in charge. You have really sort of taken control of this from start to finish. It's an honor to be at a conference when you're in the minority. I've been to a couple of events where the majority of people are British Sign Language users, and when you're one of 5 or 6 people in a room of 30 or 40 people and everybody is signing, it gives you a little bit of an insight into what it must be like to be set aside, isolated, not as important as everybody else in the room. Today is sort of an example of that when sort of I'm in the minority and it's an honor to be here. I have learned so much. Yesterday I looked on Twitter and I saw a photograph of Jerry hugging Ron, and it got me right there. I've just about held on this far today. So I just wanted to say it is the easiest thing in the world to give out money. What you guys have done with very, very small amounts of money has been absolutely amazing. It's an honor to work with you. The emotion of all this will probably hit me in 6 months' time when the Life Changes Trust doesn't exist anymore. But as long as there are people with dementia like you, then I think the world will be a better place. So thank you very much for being here.
Should all the acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Right.
For those of you that don't know the words, Paul and Tommy, I've tried to write them up. I wrote them up in red and said somebody said there were two in faint, so I went over them in black and they're probably completely illegible now. But anyway, can anybody say what Auld Lang Syne means? The three words.
It means Auld Lang Syne.
It means Auld Lang Syne. Fine. Okay. Here we go. Yeah.
Stand up.
Does anybody need the words? Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot of old Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup of kindness, dear, for the sake of Auld Lang Syne.
We never got a whiskey.
No. Normally everybody's in a slightly different state of mind. Great to meet you, Michael.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, go catch
Definitely.
Come up.